Won't you please come join me for some midnight therapy?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Midnight Therapy. I'm your host, the one and only Cat Matthews. Here we are on a Sunday morning, getting caffeined up with a little coffee, trying to, let's say, process everything that happened since the last episode. In the last episode, I touched on it briefly because when I filmed it Saturday morning, that is when the Iran conflict happened. So I didn't really get to touch on it much because it was ongoing. I filmed that Saturday morning. Since then, there have been some more developments, let's say. And that's going to be the sole focus of this episode. Unfortunately, I thought this year, 2026, when I did my New Year's episode, my resolution was to not talk about politics and current events as much because it is draining and it is hard to keep up with and it is never ending and for the most part negative, and it puts you in a, let's say, defeated mental state, constantly absorbing content about politics and global events through the mainstream media and other outlets will mess with your energy. Let's just say that. And I hate to be a woo-woo person, but it is true. Go outside, touch the grass, look at a bird, smell the air, go get a cinnamon roll at the mall. Your day will be a little better. If you wake up and stare at your phone and see World War III and this and that and the stock market, you're probably going to be a little depressed. Anywho, because of what happened in the past week, I can't ignore what's going on. So you're getting another episode about global and current events and politics. And it's a little sad. It's a little depressing. But it has to be talked about nonetheless. Now, before I get into this, there's going to be a lot of heavy topics mentioned today. And I just want a little disclaimer out there. I don't know anything. I am a cowboy in the basement. Everything on this show is hypothetical for comedy purposes only. I'm just a comedian. I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a peer-reviewed scholar. I'm not claiming anything to be fact. Okay? These are my opinions. And this is my show. And because I live in America, and because I'm on such a generous platform like YouTube and even Spotify and Apple Podcasts now, by the way, they allow you to put what you want out as of now. So thank God for that. But again, don't take what I say as the end all be all. This is my take. If you're new to the show, welcome. I hope you enjoy. If you're a repeat guest, if you're a loyal follower, you know where this could go. We could be talking about Iran, and then the next minute we could be talking about Popeye's chicken. So I want you to use this as like a de-stressor. So I know what's going on now is pretty heavy, and we're going to unpack it together in this therapy session. And we're going to, it's going to get a little heavy, but overall we're going to keep it light and, fun, the Midnight Therapy way. So if you are going to get your news from anywhere, I recommend here, because I'm not going to scare you into a narrative. I'm not going to show you videos of war and then the next minute sell you an antidepressant ad like the mainstream media would do. I'm just going to give it to you straight, right from my mouth, the horse. So let's get into it. Big claim right off the bat. I believe World War III has already begun. After a lot of thought and thinking about other wars in history and how they start off kind of slow and there's a triggering event and then they build and then it gets worse. And then years later, you could then go back with a team of scholars and say, well, this is when we definitively think the war started. For example, World War One, we have Archduke Ferdinand. We have that event, right? We say that's what started the war. And we reiterate that. We regurgitate that over and over again to the next generations. And then everybody knows that that's what started the war. I think if there are history books one day in the future, who knows if there will be, I believe that scholars will agree that World War III officially started on October 7th, 2023, with the Gaza incident, a Hamas attack on Israel. Now, Israel is a major player in World War III, as are we. But I think our relationship to Israel and Israel's relationship to us is what got us involved in World War III. Now, of course, let's be fair. Maybe Ukraine, you could say. You could say the withdrawal from Afghanistan under Biden. You could say Russia invading Ukraine. These all contributed to the World War starting. But I don't think they were the sole cause, because I think the biggest player in World War III, as of now, the biggest contributor, the biggest cause is Israel. And we're going to get into this more. Now, granted, I'm talking about the nation that is Israel, the government of Israel. I'm not saying all Jewish people. I'm saying Israel. Make that very clear. This is why we got involved in a conflict, let's say. I mean, let's just say it like it is. If it weren't for Israel asking us for help, whether it be through ammunition or our actual help with our equipment and getting involved, we probably wouldn't have been involved in a conflict like this, you know? Now, I understand what happened on October 7th was a horrible thing. Hamas, complete surprise attack, took hostages, killed many Israeli people that were innocent. And then, of course, we thought it was our obligation to step in and help. But the only problem is, let's do long story short. June 2025, the U.S. does the bunker busters to eliminate Iran's nuclear capabilities. And the way Trump put it was completely obliterated, right? Remember he said that? Then negotiations started, and we're focusing on Iran here. Now, this went from October 7th, an attack on Gaza from a terrorist group called Hamas, to Israel then saying, we need Iran to not have nukes. Okay, see how that's a jump. But see how the narrative works. You know, it makes sense if you're watching the news at home and you live in the United States. You go, well, I guess that makes sense. They were attacked on October 7th. They're the only Jewish nation over there, surrounded by Muslim nations. They need our help. We don't want to see them get bombed. So then the bunker busters happened, which a lot of people were opposed to. I did a big episode on that. I didn't like that. I have my own view. You know, I don't think the U.S. should be involved in other nations' conflicts. I really don't. I don't think we are the world's police. I really don't. And that goes for everyone, not just Israel. But let's keep it moving here. So we do the bunker busters, and let's fast forward to a couple days ago, February 28th, 2026. U.S. And Israel attack Iran, and they wipe out almost all of their top of command, including the supreme leader, Khamenei, I believe is how you say his name, which isn't a good look to go into another country and destroy the entire, let's say, inner circle of leadership on the first day. Looks good if you're in the United States and you are a warmonger and you love war. It seems like a good win. If this is a video game or a movie, seems great. In the grand scheme of things, not so great. And this is our second time doing something like this. You got to remember Venezuela. See, I always say the news is so fast paced and everything's old news and our attention span is 5 minutes. Venezuela feels like years ago, but it wasn't. And we went in there and abducted the leader of Venezuela and his wife and took them away. And that's already old news and nobody even cares. But keep that in mind. It's going to play a part later. But now we have taken out most of the leadership in Iran, definitely the supreme leader. And I think 2 or 3 tiers under them, the backup leadership is taken out too, and most of their military. And it's only been a couple days, let's say a week. Now, Israel, our greatest ally, kind of got us into World War III here. And I don't want to say that lightly. I don't want you to think I'm over exaggerating, but I'm not. This is what I consider the Archduke Ferdinand moment of World War I. This was the United States killing the supreme leader of Iran. That's the same thing. And if you don't see that, you need to go read history more and you need to pay more attention and step out of the ecosphere. There is mass formation psychosis going on all over the world. But in this country, you have people that despise Trump, and they always have, and they always will. And then you have people that love Trump, and they always have, and they always will, no matter what he does. Now, coming from someone who voted for Trump, I'm the most critical of Trump. I say this all the time. If you love someone, like if it's a mother and her daughter, and the mother loves the daughter, you don't enable the daughter. You got to do tough love once in a while. You're the mother. You're not a friend. You got to be extra critical of the daughter, right? If you're the mother. If you are a Trump supporter, you should be extra critical of him and hold him to a higher standard, right? Because that's who you put your bet behind. But I see so many people that are Trump supporters. Of course, people that hate Trump are going to be mad at Trump over this. They're mad at Trump over everything. But the people that love Trump, they are just letting everything go. They don't see a problem with this. They don't see it as the start of World War III. They don't see it as anything. They see it as a big win for us, for the country. And I don't see it like that at all. I have many predictions I'm going to tell you tonight. And number 2, my first one was that World War III has started, and it started with October 7th. My second prediction is this will be a war of attrition, meaning I don't think this is a short conflict. I think this is going to be a long, drawn-out conflict, and I think we are going to come out hot at first. It looks like we're winning, right? We destroyed all their military. We're the number 1 military in the world. We are so powerful. We're so quick. We have a couple wins under our belt right now. We got the Venezuela. We got this. This is going to be a long, drawn-out war, and we're going to lose it. We're going to lose this war. I'm going to tell you why. Let's just state the obvious. Iran is using $20,000 drones, and it takes the United States $500,000 or $1 million each to shoot them down. So every one of those $20,000 cheap Chinese drones that aren't stealthy or fancy and they're loud, you hear them coming, it takes us up to $1 million to shoot each one of them down. You think we could sustain that kind of math? Even if you're not a mathematician out there, you could understand it's not practical, right? This is like Monopoly. This is why you watch this show. I explain things so simply. If you've ever played Monopoly, and unfortunately I have, you might bust out of the gate and get real lucky and land on like Boardwalk or one of those expensive properties. Now, the only thing is when you have a big expensive property that could do a lot of damage to other players in the game, costs a lot of money to maintain those properties, costs a lot of money to put houses there. And you know what? You might get taken out by somebody that has hotels on the 3 cheapest properties in the game. You know that, right? The cheapest, easiest properties to have, like right at the start. Somebody might have hotels on there, and you're not worried about it at the moment, but you land on that, and you might be the best player in the game. You got the best properties in the game. You're still going to lose. You're still going to lose the game. And we are the best. Of course, we know we're the best. Pat ourselves on the back. We spend more on our military than every nation in the world combined. I understand that. Well, what's that worth if we can't do this in the long run? Because we can't. Why are we even getting involved in regime change wars that we know for a definitive fact that they do not work? We know this doesn't work. For example, you get a drug dealer off the street. Do you think there will never be drugs sold on the street again? Or do you think a new drug dealer will pretty much immediately take over? I'm going to tell you the answer is clearly that a new drug dealer will take over almost immediately. And that is the most rudimentary, basic example I could ever give you. If you don't understand that, I don't know what to tell you. We had no plan. There was no plan to fix the Iranian government. We know what happens when you kill dictators, right? And this is what they say. You hear these sick people, they'll say this. They'll go, when you kill these extremists, you have to kill their family as well. Because then their son, who watched you kill their father, will become more radicalized and look for revenge one day. Do you understand how sick that sounds? Maybe we're the bad guys, right? Maybe we're the ones that are creating these terrorists. Is that worth saying? If you go in there and you kill the supreme leader, let's say he has a son, he does. You think that son is going to be like, oh, I can't wait to work with the U.S. and have a democracy and open a Buc-ee's. Can't wait to open a Buc-ee's and get a casino and an Applebee's. Never. They're going to be more emboldened to become more radical and hate the U.S. more. And that's who you're giving the power over to when you do stuff like this. And we know, because we did this for the past 40 years, and it never works. And it only costs money and lives. And if you do say, well, then we just have to take them all out. All right, then you sound like Hitler. You sound like you're talking final solution. And that's, are we really talking like that now? Because I'm hearing chatter of stuff like that. Like they all need to be wiped out, all the radicals. What does that mean? When you pick a group and say, well, they need to go. I don't know if that's our business. I would probably say for sure it isn't our business. And just for the record, people don't change. You're never going to get those people to change. So no matter what you say, well, they're terrible over there and they were hanging protesters, and they are never going to change. There are good people and there are bad people all over the world. They come in different shapes, sizes, colors, and creeds. And the bad ones are always going to be bad, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I hate to burst your bubble, but that's just the truth. You're never going to convince Islamic radicals in Iran that hate America to randomly out of the blue start to love democracy and Buc-ee's. Never. You're going to sell them American Eagle jeans? You're going to sell them a Starbucks? A coffee? What's a large? A Venti? Is that what they call it? I don't go there. Never going to happen, everyone. I'm sorry. So anyone thinking this is some sort of win, it's not. This reminds me of when Trump got rid of Obamacare but didn't have the replacement. He's like, Obamacare sucked. And it's like, all right, well, what's the new one? Oh, I don't have it yet. I have a concept of a plan, but not really. This is the same thing. We're going to replace the Iranian government with what? Well, I don't know. Whoever I like. That's what he said. He goes, whoever I like. I don't really like anyone yet. Now, the big question is, why do we care? After I just laid all that out, why do we still care about taking out these leaders and doing regime change? This is the question. The U.S. has a plethora of its own problems, and you know that. To name a few: healthcare, housing, student debt, the interest, homelessness, affordability, etc. We have a lot of problems here. Yet we are willing to spend $1 billion a day on Iran, a country that is fundamentally different from us, barely affects us in any way, isn't a threat to us. There's an ocean between us, yet we're willing to spend $1 billion a day on that, but not on those other issues I just listed that would directly affect positively, granted, the American people. So we're not willing to positively affect the American people. We don't have the money for that, but we do have the money to negatively affect Iranians. Why? Do you have any idea what that money could do for us back home here in the US? Unfathomable things. Positive things, I'm saying. Are we the world police also? Like, is it our job to police the world? If people are doing things we don't like, do we step in with force? I don't know. It's not what I voted for. Let's get into this. Trump is compromised. I said it innumerable times. A lot of people don't like hearing it, but at this point, is that even a controversial statement? Let's talk about what Trump promised and what he started doing and what's no longer going on. Remember Doge, Department of Government Efficiency? That was a stunt and a grift involving Elon Musk, where he exposed all this fraud, and then the American people were supposed to get all this money back, and they never got anything. The tariffs made so much money, and we were supposed to get money back from that too. We pulled in all this money, trillions, and now we're probably going to have to give it all back because it didn't go through Congress, and the Supreme Court overturned it, and we never got any money from that. The border, I don't think the wall is ever going to get finished. That was a stunt as well. Mass deportations, not happening at the scale that was promised, barely happening to begin with. Affordability, things are more expensive than ever. And then the big one, he said he was going to end all wars. I don't think he ended any wars. When he says he ended wars, he ended like conflicts that no one ever heard of. But we have started new wars under him, most certainly. So he kind of went against everything he ran on, which sucks. It's very unfortunate. I don't know any other way to put it. His inner circle failed. Kristi Noem fired. That border guy, remember the border guy, Bovino, fired. RFK Jr. pulled the Tylenol stunt, saying that Tylenol causes autism on a press conference. It was a nothing burger. They pulled it back 2 days later. That was kind of a fail. Kash Patel is proven to be the definition of an utter failure. Using taxpayer money in the FBI's plane to chug beers with the U.S. hockey team. Not great. Hegseth, we're going to talk about him a lot today, but he's turning out to be problematic, to say the least. So far, I laid out everything that's going on, kind of, in a summary fashion, right? Spark Notes fashion. And then I laid out that Trump completely did a 360 on all of his policies and all his promises. So why is this all happening? And what does this all lead back to? Why would we get in this war? Why would we change up so much if we are the Trump administration? I'm going to tell you, this all leads to Israel. And you might think I sound like a nut job, but trust me, in a couple of weeks, you're going to say, this guy was right. They, for whatever reason, control the United States of America. And I'll leave you to speculate. Small country in the Middle East controls the world power, the United States of America. I don't know why. I do know why. But you could figure out why, and I'll give you my opinion a little later. But just so you know, we will do anything they ask. We will enter any conflict they ask us to without a question. And why is that? Israel forced us into this Iran conflict, whether you like it or not. They were going to attack Iran regardless, and they kind of pressured Trump to say, like, if you don't, United States soldiers might die over here, and we'd rather have the extra muscle, but we're going to do it no matter what. And Trump does whatever Netanyahu says. Netanyahu's been at the White House so many times. Have you noticed that? And every time he visits, there's another war or a start of some type of conflict, let's say, because we don't want to use the W word quite yet. They'll let you know when it's a war. As of now, it's just a military operation, right? Now, this reminds me of the Einstein quote. I don't know if you know it, but Einstein said something like, I don't know what weapons will be used in World War III, but what I do know is World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. Now, what that means is World War III will completely eviscerate the planet. And they are showing us that is most certainly the case. Just in the past week, have you seen what's going on? Have you seen the sheer amount of weapons that are shocking that we have, that we possess? Of course we have nukes, and of course we have these crazy bomber planes and things like that. But did you hear the Space Force, which is the new branch of government Trump created? Let's just say there's some odd things about the Space Force if you didn't know. But regardless, they're using these laser weapons from outer space. The United States Space Force was using laser weapons, and Israel has some sort of laser weapon too. That's not great. We let Israel and the United States have a Death Star out in space. That's not great. But yeah, the Space Force, by the way, if you want to go down the rabbit hole, Ingersoll Lockwood is a company associated with the Space Force. You could look that up. Donald Trump created the Space Force. There was also an author in the 1800s named Ingersoll Lockwood that wrote books called The Adventures of Little Baron Trump and The Last President, which talks about a wealthy businessman from Fifth Avenue that becomes the president against all odds and divides the nation. Written in the 1800s, his name was Ingersoll Lockwood. That's the same company name associated with Space Force. Trump creates Space Force, and now we're using laser weapons. Laser weapons. Think about that. You know who talked about stuff like this? Nikola Tesla. When Nikola Tesla died, his hotel was searched. They went through all his stuff, and they put somebody very important on that task force. It was Donald Trump's uncle, John Trump, who was a prominent engineer. Look this up. He was the guy that looked through the files, looked through all Tesla's personal belongings, and said there was nothing found. That's interesting. And then after that, the family became this massive dynasty. And I don't know, does Trump have a Tesla death ray file that he gave to the Space Force, and now they're using it to vaporize people in the Middle East? I don't know. That's what you would call a rabbit hole conspiracy. But I had to mention it. And if you think anything I said was fake, look it up. Everything I said is out there. Wish I was making it up. But let's get back to Israel. Now, Trump, I always say, feels like an abusive relationship. And I hate talking like this because I know it's so sad for those people that are in an abusive relationship. But when you're in an abusive relationship, you love the person, but they're really mean to you, and maybe they even hurt you, and you don't know how to take it because they change up every day. Like one minute they're your loving partner, and the next minute they're punching you in the shoulder over burning a pot roast. And Trump is like that in a lot of ways because he's very funny and he's entertaining. He's very entertaining. This whole thing is about entertainment, by the way. The media, the news, all these pundits, these podcasters, they're milking every tragedy for a little more content. And Trump is the greatest showman when it comes to that. He knows how to make everything grandiose and magical. That's what he's good at. He's a showman, and he's the best there ever was. But Trump is like an abusive relationship because one minute he's being very funny and charismatic, and you're laughing. You're like, this guy's hilarious. And then the next minute, he's coming on TV with the hat saying, we're going to bomb Iran, and they're all going to be dead. And you're like, I don't know how to take this. Like he switched up so much, and he switches up so often. I don't know how to take this. He goes up there and he's like, some will die, some of ours will die, but that's what happens in war. But then like the next minute, he's like making a joke about a Big Mac. That's why he feels like an abusive relationship. You don't know how to take him, but I think that's all part of the plan. You won't even see him coming because he's the charismatic leader. That's why when he does become the dictator, which he will, I'm telling you this right now, he will become a dictator one way or another. And what happens about that is to be determined, but he will become a dictator and may even use the word. He may even go by the term, the dictator. Here's why, though. He has his inner circle very, very similar inner circle to, let's say, the inner circle Adolf Hitler had. And his second in command, let's say Goering, right? What was his name? Herman Goering, World War II. Look him up. Trump has that now, and it's Pete Hegseth is the second in command. And if it wasn't abundantly clear, Trump renamed his position to the Department of War. It used to be the Department of Defense, and when Hegseth got in there, they changed it to the Department of War. Now, kind of blatantly clear, right? They took the letters off the building and they said, this is the Department of War now. You could probably infer that this guy likes war, right? Not to mention he's also like a Christian crusader. He has the crusader cross on his chest tattooed, and he's got a lot of other interesting tattoos and anti-Islam tattoos. And they talk a lot of odd things in this administration, in that inner circle. And I will say it, like, there's talk of Trump being the anointed one. And for you that don't know, that means Christ. That was Jesus' name. Jesus was the anointed one. It was Jesus of Nazareth, and they called him Jesus the anointed one, which meant Jesus Christ. And then they're saying Trump's going to bring on Armageddon, which is end times talk. And on the show, I brought it up many times. I got a book from Hobby Lobby when I was checking out. It said, "Are we living in end times?" And they talk just like this. I bet you Pete Hegseth has that book on his desk. Not even kidding. They're using terms like Armageddon and Revelations, and crazy terms are being used in this administration. They're talking about the third temple. Like, you gotta be a little freaked out over this. We do anything Israel says. We have an administration with crusaders in the inner circle that are talking about the anointed one, Armageddon, the end times, and rebuilding the third temple. And Bibi Netanyahu is at the White House every other day, who's literally controlling Israel. A little convenient, right? And he's not even particularly religious himself. This is getting a little odd, isn't it? This is getting a little odd. Also, if you want to do your homework, you could look up something Israel has called the Samson option. Look up the Samson option and then go read Revelations and see if they sound a little familiar. See if the complete end of the world sounds like the Samson option, and see if we're getting close to that or not in your opinion. Critically thinking individuals out there, I want you to go read the Samson option and then think about today and what happened in this past week, and tell me if it is a little freaky, considering all the other stuff I laid out for you. Now, Trump, I do believe, has been playing chess. And he's been playing for a very long time. And he duped a lot of people. And I think he might have had good intentions at first. I really do. But I think eventually, once you get in, you get in. So everyone has these ambitions to go be a leader. And they go, well, when I'm a leader, I'm going to be different. And I'm not going to buy into all that. I'm going to remember who I am. And then you don't. Trump's no different. He's a human just like us. And you got to pay to play. And of course, Israel is getting exactly what they want. Because who do you think paid for Trump to get in the second term and even the first term? But who do you think got Trump back? Who do you think that money came from? Trump's donations, all the donors that helped Trump's campaign. Where do you think that money came from? You could hypothesize now or look it up, but I'll give you a little hint. AIPAC. Find me one politician in Washington that doesn't take AIPAC money. Find me one politician in Washington that didn't go over to Israel and put the hat on and kiss the wall. And I'm not a radical nut job here. These are just blatant facts. It's all public info. Everything I'm saying. Nothing is a conspiracy, except for the Tesla time travel Ingersoll Lockwood Space Force thing. But I told you that was a conspiracy. Anywho, Trump's playing chess. He's setting up the end times. He knows he's not going to live forever. So who does he put as his second in command? Literally, J.D. Vance, who will take over for Trump, whether it's through an election that gets skewed or whether it's through martial law, wartime president, whether he's appointed, whatever way. J.D. Vance, who is a empty vessel, vapid shill, who was placed, he was planted there, and no one even knew. If you knew anything, if you paid attention, you would know that Trump didn't even know who J.D. Vance was, and J.D. Vance hated Trump publicly. He was a freshman senator. The only thing he ever did was serve in the military. I believe he was a journalist or a photographer, and write a book about his Meemaw. Look this up. This is a fact. He changed his name like a dozen times. He had a good story. Came from nothing, overcame, and then became the vice president. And that sounds like a storybook ending, but that's not really the story. J.D. Vance is deeply rooted in small tech, which is like big tech, but for AI. He's friends with Sam Altman, Peter Thiel, Vivek Ramaswamy. They're all big tech people. And most importantly, they're all AI people. And they want the future of AI to be the Palantir database that is the interconnected knowledge of all humans for surveillance and leverage and control. Now, that's a whole other rabbit hole that nobody wants to talk about. But most people just see J.D. Vance as he's got blue eyes and he speaks well. I like him. And that's what people say. And all the Trump people will like him, but they like him in the way that they liked Pence. They liked him because Trump told them to. If Trump told them not to like J.D. Vance, they wouldn't. Because the GOP is dead, and I said this a million times, it's the Trump party. People, go ask yourself, no one's a Republican anymore. No one's part of the GOP anymore. And if you are, you're lying or you're very old. The Republicans now are Trump. They're MAGA. That's it. There's no GOP anymore. Just like there's no Democratic Party anymore. There's only the progressive radical liberal party. That's the only thing that makes a wave. You know, it's the only thing that makes a wave. The only thing that makes a wave is Trump and connectedness to Trump. Anything else is nonsense. And I didn't make those rules. That's just what it is. So JD is ready to set up that AI future for the U.S. It already happened. On day one, Trump invested in OpenAI with Sam Altman. Look that up. Day one of his second term. Now, I'm a big believer that AI is quite literally what one would call the Antichrist. And that's a whole nother episode. That's a whole nother topic, but you're hearing it here. AI is a false god. It is a created human superpower that's godlike that people will worship and have to consult with every day. And when that software is put to hardware, no doubt most of the population will worship it like a holy deity or a unholy like entity. You know what I'm saying? But I do believe it is the complete opposite. Is the fake emulation of a god. It is like how God would create everything and be all powerful. That is a fictitious, false God that can create anything and be all powerful. I can create any image, any song, any answer. I know everything. People will worship that because people are weak-minded. So keep all that in mind. That's all going on in Trump's inner circle. Now, no one voted for this, by the way. Even MAGA, especially MAGA. MAGA voted for the middle class, making America great again, getting things to be affordable again, closing up the border, all these basic things, right? Never did they vote for AI. Never did they vote for foreign war and regime change. And never did they vote for this administration and what's going on. And I know you all know that's true. I know you know that's all true. So why are we now dancing around the idea of nuclear war, and why is everybody okay with it? And most importantly, why is MAGA okay with it? I did an episode a while ago saying the end of MAGA, and I thought that was going to be it. But now it feels like this really is the end, but it's not looking like the end. And why is that? Why do we not learn that war is hell and it never works? Why can't we realize that Trump has lost the plot? I understand it's both sides of the same bird. And I know that Kamala Harris was a horrible pick for a multitude of reasons. You don't have to tell me that. You don't have to tell me that her ideology is completely warped and she stands for nothing. And she is an empty vessel, vapid politician, just like J.D. Vance, who did what she had to do to get to where she is and didn't deserve to be where she was through merit. I understand all that. But ask yourself this. Do you think Kamala Harris or a Democrat would put us into World War III right now? Do you think we would have been doing this with Iran if it were Kamala Harris? That's an honest question. Would the ideology and the culture of America be forever destroyed? Probably. But would we be in World War III? Probably not. Probably not. And they would probably try to do something to at least save face with the healthcare system and affordability and maybe even student debt. And that's what a lot of young Trump people have to understand now. Has Trump or the Republican Party ever done anything for you? Ask yourself that. Has Donald Trump or the Republican Party directly affected your life in a positive way? Probably not. You liked the idea of him because it stood more with your ideologies, but these people will say anything to get elected and not follow through with it. And you need to look, do you agree with what Trump said when he was a politician campaigning? Yes. Do you agree that he followed through? You can't. He didn't follow through with any of it when he became president. He's done nothing for you, just like the rest of them. The only thing is, for young people, the Democrats might try to save face so much that they might actually benefit you. It'll destroy the fabric of the nation, I understand, but you might get your student debt cleared with a Democrat, and you might get free healthcare with a Democrat, which might directly affect your life more than an Iranian war. Remember, they tell you they have no money for this stuff. We can't give everyone healthcare. We can't give everyone assistance for buying a house. We can't lower interest rates on student loans. They say no to everything, but the minute Israel asks for a world war, we'll give you $1 billion a day. We'll do whatever it takes. See, they have money for what they want, but that's not what we voted for, correct? That makes you wonder, does voting even matter? I'm going to tell you this, probably not. Probably not. We've been lied to about nearly everything. About nearly everything. For example, the Iranian people, they told you they were so happy this happened, that they were celebrating in the streets. There was parties. Everybody hated the supreme leader. You know what they showed you? They showed you the equivalent of this. If Donald Trump were assassinated right now by a foreign country, you would see millions of liberals on the streets saying, thank God we hated him. We're so grateful you saved us. We hated Trump. But you know what they wouldn't show you? Half the country that was mourning and angry because they loved Trump. Same thing with Iran. Half the country over there loved that supreme leader, Khomeini. And they only showed you the ones that hated him on the street. So it's like, so the people that watch The View and Good Morning America and whoever, daytime television, go, see, what he did was a good thing. Trump saved those people. Maybe. Who knows? There's always three sides to a story. Your side, the other side, and the truth. So add that to the list of things we've been lied to. And it all goes back to Trump being compromised. You know, this is, like I said, Trump was supposed to be the one that was going to expose the fake news media and expose all this, right? And now he's also compromised. So who compromised the uncompromisable man? That's what I want to know. He said, I don't need your campaign money. I have my own money. Remember that? He was against foreign war. He told Jeb Bush on stage that there was no weapons of mass destruction, and it was terrible what he did in the Middle East. Now he changed his tune. Why? I have a reason. It's Israel. That's 100% why Trump changed his tune, and we're going to get into that more. Keep in mind that this has to lead somewhere. That what I'm telling you right now is already going to be old news by tonight. There's going to be more developments every minute. So where does this go from here? Let's try to get ahead of the 8 ball here. I think this ultimately leads to martial law, no midterm elections. Trump will not leave. He will be a wartime president. There may even be a draft. And I do think China and Russia will get involved in some way within this year. They're already talking dictator stuff. Trump's already talking like a dictator, how he spoke with Spain about their airspace, taking Greenland, taking Panama, what he did already in Iran, in Venezuela. So the dictator stuff isn't too far-fetched. Not to mention the Golden Ballroom, destroying half of the White House for the Golden Ballroom, talking about a triumph arch, redoing the whole White House in gold, literally like literally like dictators have their offices. Like when you see the dictator's office, it's just like that. Trump like took a page out of that book. I was like, I want that in my office. So that's what I see happening. In the very near future, I think Iran is going to realize that we might be out of ammo or near out of ammo, out of good ammo. And Iran has only been using the junk, and they're about to pull out some heavy stuff soon. I think. I think we thoroughly underestimated Iran. I think we, no pun intended, blitzkrieged Iran thinking we were going to finish this in a day. And I think it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a war of attrition. This is like the Buster Douglas fight with Mike Tyson. If you know what that is, look that up. But that's what it's going to be. We are Mike Tyson in that scenario, and Iran is Buster Douglas. My opinion. People are saying that this is a distraction from the Epstein files. I'm so sick of hearing this because it's quite literally the reverse. The Epstein files were your little distraction from the World War. They wanted you to go full on Scooby-Doo, deep dive into these files that they say stuff, but no one's going to pay any prices. I watched Hillary Clinton. I watched Bill Clinton laugh and ignore questions about the most atrocious things, and that's going to be the end of it. I'm sorry. No one's going to do a couple stunts. They arrest Prince Andrew and a couple people step down from positions, but that's going to be it. None of these elites are going to fall. The whole world is run by this blackmail operation that all stems back to another place as well, which unfortunately is Israel. A lot of people involved are directly involved with Israel. I don't know why that is, but you can't be mad at me for saying it. But then you have this planned opposition. You have Tucker, Candace, Nick Fuentes. They're all coming out now so mad at this Iran situation and wanting the Epstein files out and all that. They are doing whatever they have to do to make money. They're in that club too. Just so you know, they're all in the big club. It's a big club and we ain't in it, but they're in it. But you need a planned opposition. You need a bad guy and a good guy in the WWE fight. And it's all scripted, and that's why they're doing that. So a lot of people are watching them. They're like, see, they're exposing it. They understand. They're speaking up. Yeah. For the play, for the pageantry, and for the performance. That's what they're doing. It's just a show. This is all a big show. And if they let you see it, it's because they want you to see it. So when they show you those Epstein files and they unrelease stuff and they're edging you. They're like, well, I guess we'll release a little more. Oh, look how terrible this was. And look at that. You know what that means? That's because they want you to think like that. They want you to worry about that. But the reason nothing has actually happened is because nothing was ever going to happen. Now let's finish on this Israel thing. I brought up Israel a lot today. Why do we bring them up? And the question keeps coming back. Do they run everything? Do they control the world? Does the country of Israel, the nation of Israel, do they control the world? Now, this is a deep, 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 deep rabbit hole that you could go down if you wish, but I'm telling you this right now. AIPAC donations control our elections and always have. And if you don't believe me, look it up. Epstein himself running this blackmail operation directly tied to Israeli intelligence. His girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, confirmed Mossad triple agent. I don't make this up either. The ex-prime minister of Israel used to stay at Epstein's house and also installed a security system at his many properties. Perhaps even the island. I don't know. But it is pretty clear that there are these sick, satanic pedophiles that run the world. And everything seems to be a big blackmail operation, whether it be secret videos taken on an island of evil acts where both parties are compromised so they agree with each other and make deals with each other, or simply just campaign donations that will be repaid back once they win and get put into office. Israel spent a lot of money on Trump's campaign. Now it's time to repay the favor. So Trump may have been a free agent at one point, but he most certainly is not now, and he has a lot of favors to repay and only 3 years to do it, so he's working fast. Let's not forget Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, who is Jewish. Trump's daughter, who married him, also converted to Judaism. And he is like the liaison of all important people in Trump's campaign. You don't meet the big guy, without talking to Jared Kushner, who is directly tied to Israel. So, where do we go from here? I'm going to say this right now. Don't let this turn into blatant anti-Semitism, because I see that all over the internet, and that's not the answer either. There are Jewish people all over the world. I'm not talking about Jewish people, for the record. I'm talking about the Israeli government, the higher ups in the Israeli government. That's like saying Trump is bad, so every U.S. citizen is bad. No. I'm saying don't say, well, this is all the Jews. Like, that's what crazy people say. And it's like a family at a Target, and they're like, there they are, the enemy. No, don't be doing that. I'm just saying, look into this and form your own opinion through critical thinking and logic, and realize that there is a pattern that Israel, the government, the nation, is behind a lot of what's going on right now. And I think it's a problem because it's just dragged our country into a world war, in my opinion. Now, I know that's heavy stuff. That's a lot to take in, but that is my take. I'm America first. I love this country. I love its people. I love its culture. I love that this country is the only country in the world where the ideology matters more than any other factor. It doesn't matter your ethnicity, you're rich, you're poor, you're black, you're white, you're Christian, you're Muslim. Everyone is American here. And that's the only country in the world where that happens. You could go to Germany, you'll never be German. You go to France, you'll never be French. You come here, you become American. And that is the most powerful, unifying ideology that ever existed. The system, by the people, for the people, is powerful. And our freedoms here. And I'm not willing to let them go this easily. So I suggest everybody start waking up and being a part of this system before the system doesn't exist anymore, before this experiment fails and crumbles like all the others. Stand for something or fall for anything, and wake up. Don't stare at the news and say, oh, this war is crazy. Form a real opinion on it and learn all the info and actually critically think. Even if you are a Trump hater or a Trump lover, we need to be critical of this administration. I'm telling you, especially if you're a Trump supporter. That speech with the hat when he said we're going to bomb Iran, that was one of the most ominous moments I felt in a long time since COVID, since those COVID announcements of we're locking down the country. I haven't felt so uneasy since then. That was an uneasy thing to see. It was just the president. It was a dark curtain. He was by himself. It was very quiet and ominous. Like, these are weird times. Everybody thinks it's never going to happen. Oh, that's not going to happen. They didn't think World War II was going to happen right after World War I, the war they called the Great War. So stay on your toes. There's an economic bubble that's going to burst here. Oil prices went up so much overnight. It's not looking good. And we are biting off more than we could chew. We are spreading our empire all over the world. We got to give arms to Ukraine and Israel, and we got to fight our own wars now. And then Trump's talking about invading Cuba. Like, you're at a turning point here. Speaking of turning point, Charlie Kirk, rest his soul, was very against this war in Iran. So he's probably rolling over in his grave right now. But he was another one that didn't realize that the game is rigged. And even the people closest to you could be your enemy overnight. So that's what I'm saying. My ending message here is what you could do now is you could pray, you could save yourself, make right with the Lord on your own, get good with Jesus, worry about your family, worry about your friends, worry about peace of mind, and don't let the news drive you insane. Don't worry, but be aware of what may come very soon also. And I think it's going to come sooner than later. By the time I post this episode, 30 things would probably have happened, I assume. But I do want you to stay positive. And I hope you feel a little bit more in the know now that you listen to this amazing show. Comment if you have anything to say. I always respond to comments. I love the comments. This show is brought to you in part by Three Saints Barbershop and Jack's Pub and Eatery, located in the heart of historic downtown Jessup, Pennsylvania. Also, Bacardo Jewelers. I'll be back with another episode. 30,000 things will probably happen by then, but I'll be here for you every step of the way. As always, stay curious, my friends. Good night.